So a star in your house makes the universe your home. What I'm going to talk you today is about what is the light. And I like to start from the concept of a German architect. The name of this architect is Rudolf Schwarz. So he claims that when you see objects, you always see light, and the light comes from the sun. So ultimately, you always see the sun, and the objects illuminated are bringing you the experience of the sun. From his wording, he says the following: the light traces past through the space, shines rays through the space, and welcome it in the stellar image. Finally, you strike an object and make it shine. But because the light and the star are one and one single object, properly it is the star which by means of the rays reaches one and only that object and couples with it. In this process, the shining object glimpses and captures part of the light, transforming it in darkness inside its interior. It reflects the rest of the light. In this way, it becomes itself a star. So every object that you look at, that you see, is a star. Is it to do something equivalent to select a single object and place it in the center of the eye? Is it equivalent to insert the selected object as unique sun in a new world space and to transform our own body in the sphere of this object which emits rays? All this has a shape. Shape is the eye, real image of the body and therefore also of the man. From this archetype, original sign, it is possible to understand that the body is made for the meaning. That is the answer to life, that the man is an open shape. Or better saying, that the man can renew in himself the construction of the world, transforming himself into an open shape and repeating in himself the aperture of the universe and its dependence on the light. So to comment and to summarize, Schwarz is answering in his experience who is the man and linking the self-consciousness of a human being to the experience of seeing and the experience of light, and specifically to the relationship that the human body, meaning the eyes, have with the light and with the sun. The question concerning artificial illumination and architecture comes to the point that, as a matter of fact, lamps are not able at all to perform in the way that the natural light is doing, for example, as described by Schwarz. More specifically, what he says is that without this experience, or without being sure that we have in our body the space, means hosting the sun in our eyes, means hosting the cosmic space in our body, it's by means of this experience that we learn that the universe, the cosmic space, is an inhabitable space. So the moral certainty that we can live at home in the cosmos is because of this experience of light. And it is only because we are sure to be already at home in the universe that we start building houses. So architectures emerge and arises because of the fact that we are sure we are already at home in the cosmos. So this is a very deep understanding of what is building houses and building homes and architecture. And I think what this CoeLux is willing to do is supporting architecture in this mission. So what is art? It's obviously very complex to answer, but just let me make an example. One evening, one day I saw this beautiful painting, so a house dimly lit by a street lamp in a court. It's of course well done, but nothing special. And the thing, I saw this beautiful blue shiny sky at noontime, and all this became significant when I saw them together, meaning the Empire de Lumière by Magritte. Of course, it's surreal. It's a surreal experience, something that our brain might identify as strange, but meanwhile capture also as something related to our experience. So how could be that? I was spending a couple of hours watching at this artwork until the same evening, out of my window in my home, I saw a house dimly lit by a street lamp with a tree in the surrounding. Everything was in the night. The sky was black. At least I was believing the sky was black, until I saw glimpses of clouds in the very high atmosphere shining my way, faint rays of blue or yellow or pink or greenish.
Because the sun was just set below the earth, but still some rays were reaching those very high clouds and illuminating those clouds and making them very faintly luminous. So in my
understanding was switching from the believing that the sky was just dark and black and free from any light to a very luminous night sky. But that discovery was because of Magritte. So what I learned is that art, even though it's surreal, is a window to reality. So it's the representation of reality that allows me to capture something that I had in front of my eyes all the life and I've never seen before. So art is a theater, is a performance. And finally, what about science? If you have a chance to read Light and Color on the Outdoor by Meyer, you'll be surprised of reading about hundreds of natural atmospheric light phenomena related to the sun rays traversing the sky, the clouds, the mist, the fog, the rain, the ice, the forest, the foliage, the grass, the rivers, the windows, whatever interacts with the rays, and seeing things that you never could believe they exist in nature, but the author, Meyer, is supposed that is the truth. But I tried to see those things and I failed for weeks. Then I went to my lab, and first with the students and then with the performance which we developed with the students for several years during 2001 to 2007. Here you have an example where we were doing with an exhibition actually in Vilnius with kids. Here you see how you simulate a water droplet, and the water droplet was shining a cone of white light surrounded by colors. This is the mechanism by which the rainbow exists, but the rainbow you see is a bright sky against a dark sky just separated by colorful light. And by nanoparticles reproducing the atmosphere, you learn how the air is not transparent but is bluish, like the eyes of the kids, because they were really scattering. And that process that makes the eyes or the sky to be blue, when it's very thick, makes the sunset to appear, so that the light traversing the sky becomes reddish on the sunset. And the air that separates you from things either in the city or in the clouds is actually shining the blue light. And the clouds here mimicked by these funnels that are going down in the water, and the water mimics the sky here because of the nanoparticles that are dispersed inside, are able to change dramatically all the color of the landscape. So connection between physics and showing the phenomena and how the artist is representing, and connection between the art finally and the everyday experience became clear, meaning that the people, after having become familiar with the lighting phenomenon as staged by physical reconstruction, go out and see nature, and somehow the connection, they see nature like Rothko, like Van Gogh, like Leonardo. And that's because the reconstruction of the phenomenon that artists might have seen was made them familiar. That means that art and also science, they are a performance, they are theater. They are action where the human being looks at nature, maybe believe that there are some phenomena are playing some role in the nature, but then bring these phenomena and put them on stage. And through that performance, that reconstruction look back at the nature. So speaking, we do a simulation of nature, but the simulation is a tool that allow us to get back in relationship with the nature, with the reality, that otherwise is something unreachable. So it's by means of a fake, of an artifact, that finally we are able to teach and talk and to say you to the real object, that otherwise are unreachable somewhere deeply in the infinity. So we are now talking about the experience of light, and going back to Schwarz, light is the sun. Think about the last time you have been walking in the forest. You might have seen myriads of rays filtering through the foliage. Of course, all the aperture in the foliage, they are random, they are of any shape, but you might be surprised to see that all the spots on the floor, they are round. Some one is brighter, some other is darker, but they look all round and similar. So why? You see here, they all looks like the image of something. This is, of course, is not a real forest. It was rebuilt on stage, and we rebuilt the sun as well. And then we rebuilt the moon, and if the moon is eventually coming and close to the sun, like during the eclipse, you see myriads of image of the sun close by the moon. This, of course, happens because any aperture is mapping down all the rays starting from the sun, filtering through the hole. They are mapped down and create the image. It's so-called pinhole camera, which was also used in the 18th century for the artists to showcase what they see in Venice and so on. So you know that process. But that's to say that any time any object is casting shadows and starting from the sun as an image, somehow the very image of the sun is transformed and mapped down into the scenery. So you really always see the sun. And Renoir was not painting just the lady, the swing, the man, the forest. No, he's looking at the sun. Whatever I see, whenever I see, I always see the sun. You are the sun. If you look, come to Como and drive the car nearby the lake, sometimes there are streets going a little bit uphill, and you, from that uphill look down on the lake, you might be surprised to see those spots of shining light coming out of the water. It's like you have a monster, a dragoon with a shining eye looking at you from down the water, and suddenly this light sinks and they appear somewhere else. It's a real, like a monster there. It's fantastic, it's beautiful. And you, of course, think, okay, I don't believe in taste. These are reflections, but reflection of what? Now you see that house is making here a white stream of light and so on. But above these two spots, there is nothing unless you go very, very uphill, and then you see these two very small and very far houses. And then the question is, how could they make such fantastic and shining spots? And of course, if you look geometrically, take the phone and Google on maps where you are. I am on the right, and the house that was they were on the pink on the left, and on the top there is Chernobyl, is a valley. So the sun is coming from that valley, eventually hitting some house on the pink and reflected down on the water and reflect back to me. Probably a house like that. But you see the window of the house works exactly like the aperture in the foliage, and therefore creating the image of the sun down on the water. And since I'm sitting just in front, the reflection from the water is shining the image my way. Of course, there are many other houses that are shining the image of the sun somewhere else, but you don't see them because you are not in the right position. But after a few minutes, because of the rotation of the planet, you see those first images to disappear, sinking down, and you see maybe on the right someone else is appearing there. And it's like a boiling, and that boiling of bright spot, and the local people call it GB Janna. GB Janna is the name of this phenomenon, which is not magic, makes you an enhanced perception of the rotation of the planet. And you really see and feel the Earth that rotates under your feet at the speed of several thousand kilometers per hour, and you feel how this rotation is making the reflection of the sun glimpsing from one place to the other. Whenever you look, whatever you look, you always see the sun and objects as a shadow in that rays. So these images are the same as what Renoir was painting. And if you look at that image of the sun, you might now go a little bit deeper and noticing a lot of rings around the spot. You see all the rings. Waves are, of course, randomly distributed. They are not ringing around that spot, but you see them. You see them just because they are shining. If you take a plexiglass and scratch it, of course, this is randomly scratched, but you see rings. These rings are because they shine the light to your camera now. And if you look at the table, my table, of course, I didn't scratch in rings with the knife around the potatoes because otherwise they've been killed by my wife. Simply, there are 3 lamps here, and these 3 lamps are illuminating 3 spots, and then light, any random scratches, is oriented to your eyes, creating these beautiful rings. And if it is not just an image, but the real one, and you will try to go closer to those rings with your eye at 2 centimeters, for example, when you see these rings in the window of the aircraft, try to go closer at 2 centimeters, you are not able to put this ring on focus anymore, and then you will see rays, no? The light coming out of the rings, random scratch, makes diffraction, and so these are rays, eventually color. Rings on a distance and rays. Rays and rings. This is the image in the signature of the sun. These branches in the forest, they are not ringing around anything. They are randomly, but you see them wet and shining, ringing light because of the location. This is a virtual image of the sun. And now, if you look at these rings, and eventually with color, you already know that inside those rings, you have the sun. I am looking at the sun. My eyes are reflecting the sun, are hosting the sun. And in so doing, I myself become a star. It is clear what Van Gogh is telling to me, is teaching to me, but if I would not have been experienced of the light, if I lost the knowledge of light because I leave all the lights under lamps, I will never perceive the connection between his experience and my own. So the architect and the lighting designer playing with artifacts, with artificial light, has the capacity of reintroducing the human being to the relationship with the light. And since light means the knowledge, to introduce the human being to the relationship of the knowledge of reality. So that's why CoeLux has a potential impact on the value of light. So jumping 15 years after those time, we now develop a technology which artificially reproduces the sun and the sky experience indoor. And looking at the happiness and the surprise of the people who see this for the first time, we identified that our mission is to replace lamps in the world, to replace lamps with fake artificial windows that, being artificial, are able to introduce back the people to the relationship to the sky. So our mission is to replace windows to replace lamps on a long time, of course, but maybe not so long, with windows that are identical to real ones. The story, the vision is pretty simple. We have been living 100,000 years in the outdoor, where light means essentially space. Perception of space is mediated by the interplay between sky and sunlight. If there are clouds and it's completely cloudy, finally you miss this experience and you are sad, but you're sad just because you cannot measure the space that surrounds you precisely anymore. So light means space. And now we live often deprived from natural light, deprived from window in that meeting room on the right. This creates a discomfort in life and a huge opportunity of revolution in technology. Maybe it's a bit arrogant to call people a failed attempt, but what I meant by this slide is that today people try to answer to this absence of sky experience indoor by presenting just the image of the sky, either by painting or by poster or by backlit displays or by monitors. In any case, all these objects are sources of diffuse light. If you have a display, a monitor, a TV showing a sky with the sun will never illuminate you and cast your shadow anywhere. So the light from a display is diffused. When you look at the display, your eyes are converging and focused onto the display. The display is illuminating the room as an overcast day, and you will never perceive any depth and any space there. If you are inside an elevator fully flashed by display showing you the Caribbean islands, you still are sure that you are living in a few cubic meters, and you suffer for the same claustrophobia even if you don't have any display. So what makes you the light creating the space is the directionality of the light. Directionality means a far distant object, the sun, 150 million kilometers, or very sophisticated optics, which is able to create such directionality in a tiny space. So we are windows, we are apertures. Architecture is not building walls, it's building windows. Walls are just the frames of the window. This is the point. And our house is building the experience of the home, but the home is not inside the house, it's outside. House and car are the same, or aircraft, or rockets that bring us to. We are explorer. We are explorer of the space. We cannot live in any home which is smaller than the universe. Architecture is not building, it's staging home. Architecture is a theater, is a performance, and CoeLux is willing to help architecture to do the same. This is my window. When I see through in the evening, I see the sky, the sunset, the hills. You know what does it happen when you switch on the lamp? What does the lamp create? Of course, the lamp creates darkness. When you switch the lamp on, the window switches off. And since the window brings you the light, and the light is the space, when you switch on the lamp, you kill an experience of space, and therefore the lamp illuminates locally, but ultimately they create darkness. So any lamp finally creates, let's call it light pollution, not just outdoor, indoor as well. How to solve the problem? Let's show how the experiment, how the nanotechnology works in principle. You have here an homogeneous medium like on the moon, you don't have any atmosphere, so the light is not scattered, but if you dissolve into the homogeneous medium a dispersion of nanoparticles that create density fluctuation on a nanometer scale, then you start scattering the short wavelength component of the light that makes the air to appear blue. The air is not transparent, it's blue. And if the thickness of the atmosphere increases, the yellow component of the light is transmitted and makes the shining yellow. Sky and sun. The blue diffuse component of the sky and the yellow transmitted component of the sun makes the natural light. This was the beginning, was an experiment. After 15 years, this is the artificial window where the sky is made by polymeric material where nanoparticles are dispersed in, and by suitable mirrors and reflectors and shadows, we create the depth perception that makes you the sun to be perceived at infinite distance. Here you see some installation of product called iHand. So there are big systems. This is in our showroom in Lomazzo. These all are pictures of artificial skylights. These are LED-based sources, and you see this is in a SMAC showroom on a kitchen, and you see in a dental clinic where a very stressful ambient because of the treatment, and the relaxed gate by CoeLux changed completely the relationship between the human being and the location. In hospital, where you are waiting for some quite stressful situation, here people are sitting and lying on the bed, and the scalp being locked by screw because they have not to move when the gamma ray beam created by this gamma knife machinery is cutting and burning your brain because you eventually have a tumor. See how the space changes dramatically from the standard condition to CoeLux, when we create such artificial space, and that contributes in giving relax and comfort to people there. So this is a bar. So we are talking now about the hospitality. In hotel, when people is a changing room for skiing people. This is an office in a street during the daytime or during the night. You see, in the nighttime you have darkness, and inside you have a shining sun. This is the Boston Consulting Group entrance, elevators, airports. So all the places where you have to wait, like in a meeting room here, they change completely the comfort and the well-being with respect to the case of standard labs. This is my office. When you see through, and this is the case of the retail industry, where the retail is looking always to create experience to the customers, because just for the product it is Nike. Just because of the product, people will tend to buy more and more on e-commerce. And only if we create the opportunity to live a new experience in a shop, they eventually come and spend the time there. And the more time they spend in the shop, the more they buy. So there is a correlation here. You see in Vilnius, Bergen-Holland, people are seeing the night and the day during the night inside. And in the real nighttime, we can rebuild the moon experience, which is extremely romantic. So be careful whom you are going to see the room with. So these are the first product, the high-end line, which is our top quality products that are, of course, quite bulky objects. The architect, you see on the left, the size of the equipment nearby Cristiana is about 8 cubic meter device, 300 kilos. So it's the size of a car, not that of a land. But the effect is indeed amazing. We sold hundreds of units of this system worldwide, from Asia, US, North America, Europe, and Emirates, and so on. The system on the right is a Skytail model. It's much more compact, and of course more lighting, is 10 kilos only. But still, the effect of this second type of product is amazing. You'll see here some models where the sun and the sky, they are seen through beautiful lamellas, and shadows are created there, or this lamella, they are eventually reflecting and shining the sun, and you see when you walk, the reflection that follows you, giving you the depth, or they are encapsulated within beautiful light wells, or they are eventually bigger, making the wall washing system. This is a forthcoming product, or they are arranged in longer arrays of units, and like in that corridor where we have a plurality of systems aligned and creating this beautiful aperture toward the sky in the very center of the roof, even though this roof is maybe 10 meters, 20 meters below ground indoor. So I think we ran out of time, so I have many other things to tell you about the well-being. So there have been studies concerning the perception of CoeLux, and compare the situation where you have CoeLux on the right here, compared to this identical room, with the only difference that we have a standard lamps there, and then you compare the impact of the two types of illumination statistically on different on people. So you have here the blue line that shows CoeLux, and the red line is the standard lighting, and people were asked questionnaires concerning all these different adjectives, so lively, inspiring, chilly, spatial, relaxed, all positive associations, and you see how CoeLux overcomes and get almost twice larger rates with respect to the standard lighting, and going in contrast to negative association. I don't have here the data, the result is opposite. So if somebody needs more data, I can provide you all the full papers and information here, just shortly, because I want to mention that it's evident a lot of effect of CoeLux on the psychological level. So these are tests made on questionnaire on people. For example, They measure here the performance-related activity, so how people feel motivated to work, so active, energetic, forthcoming, and so on. This is an important feature because the capacity of work means the productivity of people at work. And you see here that on the graphic on the right, where the red line and blue line are referring to standard and CoeLux lighting, that the standard light is well below the CoeLux in terms of productivity, and also the decay in time from short to long term is much stronger than for CoeLux. So you you are more productive and you keep being more productive longer with CoeLux than with standard light. This was one case, and similar things are for the general well-being, so how you feel confident, unconcerned, pleased, comfortable, or the same with the general deactivation. So you get deactivated when you stay a long time in a meeting room. Of course, now the sign is different, so CoeLux is less deactivating, and the deactivation grows slower for CoeLux than for the other people. On the right, you see the numbers, 84% of preference for CoeLux, and so on and so forth. So claustrophobia, anxiety. So people in a room without window after 1 hour, they exhibit clear symptoms, clear behaving of pathologic behavior. So if they would have been tested in the outdoor, the behavior would have been considered pathologic. So we suppose under treatment, treated by drugs or by other psychological care. But that was, of course, an artifact due to the missing window. And in contrast, in the same room without window, if CoeLux switch on, the value from 42 goes back to 38. It means below the cutoff score for normal behavior. There are not claustrophobic people. This phobia is simply one indication that of a survival instinct. If we are without window, some message comes to our brain telling us that we are potentially in danger because there is no escape, and this is not rational. As it's not rational, there are no lion and tigers eating us anymore, hopefully. But still, the absence of escape gives us some effect that you can measure and gives you anxiety. And CoeLux is solving that not because it's a real aperture, but because your eyes are set now parallel, they see through the window, they get infinity perception, and then your fairness of that level is cancelled. Yeah, so in the last, these are measures done on the earth rate, so to prove that the effect is not only psychological but also physiological. And people in psychiatric hospital, they are old people, so it's older people. They are depressed, slightly depressed, and in the room with CoeLux, they go, take a chair, put the chair under the sun, and stay for 79% of the time sitting under the sun. They close their eyes. Of course, this is a clear indication of relaxing. And then measuring earth rate, you see on the left, under work, under rest, a decrease more than 3% of the earth rate, and even more significantly, the earth rate variability, so the fluctuation in the frequency of earth rate are increasing by, on average, 20%. That this is also a very strong indicator of calming effect that is absent in case of standard lamps. So this is the first physiological result, but many other studies are in progress, and maybe someone will be done also in Turkey, I hope, by your hospital. And last but not least, we started recently, but it's a wearable device to measure the signals directly coming from the brain, and from that device you can ascertain which type of the signals or which type of effect, if it's calming, if you are concentrated, if you are at work, if you are relaxed. Also, which part of the brain is active and which part is at rest. And first very preliminary but still very significant results indicate a very strong empathy that you prove when you enter in the CoeLux room, and that the part of the brain responsible to memory is strongly activated. So like in front of an artwork, you stay and think about your life, the time that you spent in many places, and you compare your experience with that strange artifact that is not real, but is surreal, or I would say in some cases super real, as some people call it in this way, because it's able to enhance your experience of Gelecek. So to conclude, here you see on night in Milano and the day in CoeLux office. It's a little bit arrogant, I know, but I like to stress this point, to make react so similar and playing with that like Magritte is doing, finally, ultimately makes you aware about the sky, the existence of the sky, what the sky means, because it's artificial. And looking at Leonardo's schools, or this actually Boltrafio, you might see that he discovered the scattering and noticed that the air is not transparent, it's bluish. And he was used to hide in his work some small detail, often very, very minimal, or very, this artwork is 20 centimeters probably tall, high, not more, is a hermitage. And in this detail, which is almost invisible, he is hiding probably the meaning of the work. And I personally identify this detail on the top right of the artwork. You see the top right window has the same color, the sky, the air, and the mantle of the Holy Mary. And these objects are almost disconnected, but there is a 1 millimeter, maybe less, half a millimeter of broken disconnection. You see the heel on the right, which is finishing on the mantle, and there is a point, a very tiny point of connection, which you can see here amplified. And this, the sky is actually flowing into the house, into the home. So the sky becomes your home because of that connection. And thinking about the meaning, he probably want to tell us the story of the child bringing the infinity to our life, but he's describing this meaning through the physical phenomenon of the Rayleigh scattering. And he's playing with the experience of sky to explain that. We now, in our modern time, we are playing like salmon, probably on the opposite flow. We are artificially, we lost the knowledge and we lost the experience of the sky. People in Manhattan, they spend only 5 minutes per day under the sky, and the sky is often hidden by very tall buildings. And we rebuild artificially the sky indoor to get our attention redirected toward the real sky. So playing with the technology and with architecture, we are able to play with light and to stage artificially and to connect us back to the experience of the real life. Thank you for your attention.